Each year we swear the birds will still come back. That's what permits each of us to shun them. By naming all the birds a flock, we track their cyclical return as something quite immune to death. Life won't lose its way, we tell ourselves each time a life is lost. Term immutable the pendulous sway of everything. Call what's fallen the cost. To believe apocalypse a fiction, that's our faith. Allowing each of us the vision needed for destroying what we're given on the faith of earth misplaced. Passing down then to our children the ritual of naming gifts we waste abundance. Teach even what yet disappears to clawing hands enclosing the horizon will come back round again beside them. What is there to fear? Did you answer, the dying body, getting colder? Oh, my children, this I swear. The birds will still come back next year, and you and I will each be 1 year older. The passage was painted by Kay Sage sometime after her husband had passed away. The work is considered to be her last self-portrait. Overcome by grief and despair, she took her own life in January 1963. The central figure's back shows some early signs of emaciation. Her white flesh is not yet wholly sickly. One could imagine the color embodied by a more buoyant pose, and within a more celebratory background. But here it is rendered increasingly gray, slowly blending into the barren landscape before it and the cubic rocks behind. The work features Sage's classic contrast of rigid, geometric shapes enveloping flourishes of curving cloth. Here, the only lively color is the ivory green of what could be a silk bedsheet. The pose feels much like she has managed to get herself up from sleep, but only so far as the side of the bed, and is now staring off at the waiting day, unable to move. I say waiting day on purpose. The day is waiting for her, yes, but we can also interpret the image as her waiting for the day, waiting for the return of her husband, or perhaps her happiness, her energy, her life, or maybe she's waiting for the birds to come back. The title, Le Passage, also carries this dual directionality. Is Sage waiting for something to arrive, or is she preparing herself to depart? In this essay, I will be using surrealism as a gateway for exploring the apocalypse, both as a devastating event and a prophetic vision. The two are connected, and this is as true in surrealist works as it is in religious scripture. It is no surprise that surrealism was born from the European interwar period and reached its canonical peak in the decade following World War II. Devastating events lead to prophetic vision, as we attempt to make sense of the senselessness of life. And prophecy, therefore, offers a way back into or out of devastation. That is why I believe that today, in our own chaotic and stupid historical moment, we will once again begin to find that surrealist art makes more sense to us than the world we inhabit. When prophecy foretells destruction, mass death becomes no longer a pointless waste of life and love, but an event that fits into a larger narrative or schematic, and thus is rendered sensible. This definitionally means that the interpreter of the apocalypse must not only dabble in nonsense, but peddle it too. If the prophetic vision is too sensible, it cannot be apocalyptic. The ability to make sense of senseless events comes after the vision, a vision which might confound many, but which some have the power to render ordered and precise. The surrealists are very well-traveled peddlers of nonsense. That is to say, the surrealists are able to adeptly navigate the senselessness of human existence, including the personal apocalypse, the global apocalypse, the spiritual apocalypse, and return to us again with concrete images, stories, insights, and lessons. In a word, knowledge. The surrealists render knowable the unknown, and render sensible, even if only for a revelatory moment, the senseless. They do this either by translating what they find in their visions into intelligible forms, or by expanding the audience's ideas of what is allowed to be experienced as intelligible. For such work, one must not only travel back and forth between worlds, but interpret what one finds, and serve as prophet. The prophet is understood here as someone who performs one of two tasks which I believe we should understand surrealists as experts in, because they regularly perform them. The prophet must translate their vision of another world into the language of this one, or they must bring this world into their vision of another. Thus, we see Moses as a prophet in both senses. He conveys God's messages to the Jewish people, and he leads the Jewish people out of Egypt, setting them on their journey into that other land, the Promised Land. Such prophetic work is suitable to some skill sets more than others, and perhaps no god in the pantheon is as naturally gifted at the role than Hermes. As a result, the surrealists found him particularly helpful. Hermes is an important figure in surrealism for his ability to travel between worlds, with his winged sandals and helmet. In Remedios Varo's exploration of the sources of the Orinoco River, we see what is possibly a human, in an egg-shaped boat, approaching an overflowing chalice. The chalice, which features in other Varro works, appears to be self-sprouting, or parthenogenetic. It is able to generate water from within itself, through some unknown process. The human figure nears the chalice nimbly, using small strings looped through their clothing to navigate the waters. Their jumper-like attire seems more appropriate for a pilot than a sailor, suggesting that perhaps the egg boat can not only sail, but fly. Above the boat is a pair of wings, evoking Hermes, and below we have other hermetic symbols. A pouch is built into the side of the boat, and inside it we have papers. Papers could be read as envelopes awaiting delivery, or as blank papers which our explorer will soon be filling with notes of what they've discovered. Of course, whether the papers are notes or envelopes or both, the role of the sailor is clear. They are transmitting information between worlds. Is our figure also an author or interpreter of the apocalypse? Perhaps. Who knows what mischief they could conjure by channeling their inner feline and pawing that chalice off the table. Or maybe they could make a mess of the whole region's topography by pocketing the chalice and ferrying it elsewhere. After all, Hermes is also the god of thieves, and the work of theft is not as distinct as we would like to believe from the work of interpretation, from the work of conveyance, of delivering messages, from the work of leading people from a place they have known to a place only the thief knows. We've traveled on our etymological journey from herm, a statue marking a milestone or boundary, to exegesis. To tie them both and all the words between together, we can understand exegesis as both a guiding out and a seeking out, and thus, as with the roles of the prophet, give it energies in both directions. We can understand exegesis to mean both going into a text to seek out some object, person, knowledge, and to mean guiding back out again what one has found. If we also understand text to mean not just the written word, but voices and even images, then we can understand how the author or interpreter of the Apocalypse is one who practices exegesis and is thus already squarely in the tradition of the Hermetic. For the prophet must not only venture into the text of the Apocalypse and both seek out and then guide out the visions they encounter, they must also along the way place their markers and milestones, the herm or hermai that will delineate the boundaries between the worlds and serve as a trail to follow for the journey back home. And yet, upon returning home, the prophet of the Apocalypse may find that home is not only unrecognizable to them, but intolerable to the general public that had previously found in it every knowable comfort. At such a moment, the prophet may have to turn around once more and lead the people out of the world of senseless destruction and into the world of their visions. For such a purpose, we have the classic alchemical hideaway, the grotto. Much like how I am defining the Apocalypse in this essay, Dorothea Tanning described Bateau Bleu, the grotto, as an event or an enigma. Take your choice. The boat, the waves, and the timepiece can take you anywhere you want to go. The grotto is important to the work of star reading, soothsaying, prophesying, and so on. As a womb-like cave of power, conducive to the channeling of otherworldly energies, one might, in a world-ending situation, journey to the grotto to seek guidance from the sorcerer or witch who has made the damp cavern their home. Yet, as a place of unknown and perhaps unknowable forces, a place that seems utterly senseless to the well-adjusted, one would only trek there as a last resort, when all other logics and all other sensibilities had failed. Thus, it is precisely during the Apocalypse that we conduct some exegesis of our own, and begin to seek such places out, hoping to be guided to answers or resolutions, and hoping to convey back out again some dark new knowledge that makes sense of all our misery. For it is there, at the end of the world, that we find ourselves most in need of the prophet of the next one.